Hi, I'm Melissa Krieger with Do Yoga With Me. This video is all about your pelvic floor, why it's important to engage it, how to engage it, and how to keep that connection throughout your practice. You'll need a block or a pillow for this one. We'll begin lying on our backs. You'll want your block or your pillow handy. Have your knees bent and your feet flat. Feet a little bit separated and knees knocking in towards each other. Chin a little bit tucked in so the back of the neck stays long and the arms can just rest down beside you. Close your eyes. Let your body drop down into the floor. Notice the points of your body that make contact with the mat and see if you could relax into that a little bit more. Feeling how the front body can open up so the chest and shoulders, the belly is relaxed. Your hips can be relaxed in this constructive rest pose. Find a little give, some softness in the hands and the feet. Spread out your fingers and your toes. Let your eyes sink heavy and relaxed into the skull. Soften the space in between the eyebrows. Relax your cheekbones, your jaw, your neck, your throat. Start to pay attention to your breath. See if you could smooth out the breath a little bit more. And could it be a little deeper and a little slower? Continue to keep your breath smooth and steady. This routine is a little more specific. What we're looking at is developing a little bit more inner strength. And when I talk about inner strength, I mean your deep core. So your pelvic floor muscles at the base of the pelvis, as well as the deepest layer of abdominal, is your transverse abdominis. The pelvic floor muscle area can be a really tricky area to wake up and connect into. If you take your fingers into a diamond shape, so you might open your eyes for this. Let your thumbs and your index fingers move into a diamond shape and just look at that for a second. So if you can see where the fingers meet up at the top, you can imagine that that's your pubic bone. At the back where the thumbs meet, that's your tailbone. And then the space out to the sides, that can span out to the sitting bones. So this is the area that resides at the base of the pelvis for males and females. You hear about pelvic floor related a little bit more to women, but it's still really an essential area for men too. But often it's women that tend to have more troubles here with a weaker pelvic floor. With males, if there's been some issues with the prostate or the prostate's been removed, then that can certainly throw this area off a little. So this pelvic floor area, we can connect into it using our breath. So that's primarily how I'll teach you how to wake this area up during this practice. Let the inhale come in just normally. And then exhale out as much as you can. So breathe out way more than you normally would. Let the inhale just come in. And then again, that super long exhale, either through your nose or your mouth, it doesn't matter, but breathing out thoroughly. So just try to work into this pattern, please. Easy inhales. Really long exhales. So these pelvic floor muscles at the base of the pelvis, they're responsible for stopping the flow of urine in males and for females. When we exhale all the way out, those muscles, they wake up. It's a reflex that we can connect into. So just by simply exhaling all your breath out, you'll be waking up not only those pelvic floor muscles, but those deep belly muscles too, that transverse abdominis area. So today in the practice, please focus with that exhaling out as long as you can. Whether you feel these muscles wake up or not, it's pretty different for everybody. They are waking up, so trust that that's happening. But even if you don't feel much of a reaction, it's okay. Know that that's happening for you. So another way you can wake up these deep muscles, if it's available in your body, in addition to that really long exhale, you might also be able to gather up at the pelvic floor a little bit and draw back at your low belly. So you're creating a little bit more of an internal contraction at the same time that you exhale. It might just be easiest on your inhale to relax and pull the breath back in. And then take that long exhale out again. Maybe pelvic floor pulls up a little bit, low belly draws back a little bit. If you're able to hang on to those muscles and still get a good inhale in, sure, go for it. But if you can't, don't worry about it, just let it go. So we'll try to keep these muscles awake and active to give us a little bit more support and stability throughout our practice. And if you find that you're really having a hard time with it, it's okay, that's very normal. You'll just keep focusing on those long exhales to encourage those muscles to activate. Now, something you can try is grabbing onto your block or your pillow and putting that in between your knees. And then just scooting your feet a little bit closer together. So essentially your hips and your knees and your heels are the same line, so you're not knock-kneeing in towards each other. By giving this block or pillow a little bit of a squeeze, and by pushing our feet, especially our big toes, down into the ground, we find another reflex that helps us wake up through the pelvic floor a little bit more. So for some of you, this might make it easier to connect into these deep core muscles. Nice big inhale. And then again, that really long exhale. Maybe pelvic floor drawing back a little bit, maybe low belly drawing back slightly. Get the inhale in. If you can hold that contraction, sure, but if not, don't worry about it. And then that long exhale out again. Block gets a bit of a squeeze, big toes push down, pelvic floor pulls up a little bit, low belly pulls back a little bit. So for some people, just this extra connection with something in between the knees, giving it a little bit of a squeeze, can make a big difference on waking up these core muscles. If you find it's helpful, you can keep using it. If you don't worry about it. Move a little bit more, coming into some bridges, so you can keep the block in between the knees. The arms are down beside you, palms facing down. The feet have a strong connection into the floor. We'll move slow with the breath and with the core. Inhale. Exhale, blow all your breath out, nudge on the block, abdominals, pelvic floor connected. Push the feet down, lift the hips up. Inhale at the top. Exhale to lower. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale, blow the breath out, connect into the deep core. Push the feet down, lift the hips up. Inhale at the top, backside's a little bit engaged, block's got that connection. Exhale to lower back down again. A couple more times, inhale. And exhale. Push down, lift up. Inhale, see if you can still have that core connection when you breathe in. Exhale to lower. Last one, inhale. And exhale, wake up the core. Push down, lift up. Inhale at the top. You can take that block or pillow out of the way and draw the knees into the chest. Just give your low back a little bit of a release. You can stay still, or you could rock a little bit from side to side. So we're just starting to wake up the deep core a little bit more and learn how those pelvic floor muscles and deep abdominals can fire, and how we can use that in our practice to offer a bit more support for the low back, the whole spine, but particularly the low back. Now you'll grab for that block or the pillow and you'll put it in between your hands. You'll push the arms up to the sky. Before you go anywhere, take a big exhale. Engage your abdominals, pelvic floor. We want the stability here before we lift up one leg and then the other. The block, giving a little bit of a squeeze at the hands, is subtle, but it does help to wake up through your deep core a little bit as well. Inhale. Exhale, fire up the abdominals and pelvic floor. Let one leg stretch forward, both arms stretch back. That can be the inhale. And strong, almost sharp exhale, pull the arms and legs back in. Alternate here, inhaling, the opposite leg stretches out. Strong, sharp exhale, pull back in. So as you're moving here, you're trying to keep your torso really still. We're building a little bit of heat in the belly, a little bit of fire there, but there shouldn't be any pain in the low back. And we're still conscientiously trying to draw back at the low belly, pull up at the pelvic floor, and use that strong, sharp exhale. One or two more on each side, please. When this feels like it's done for you, just put the block beside you. Draw the knees in towards the chest and start to make little circles, just releasing the hips. Nice easy breath, still with that emphasis on the exhale. And if possible, low belly pulling back and pelvic floor drawing up. Those muscles are meant to work in synergy with each other. When one of those muscle groups fires, the other one should as well, but sometimes that's not the case, particularly with the pelvic floor, so we want to try to wake it back up again. Let your feet come down to the mat, please. Take your feet about as wide as the mat, keep the knees bent, let the arms stretch out, and then just windshield wipers, so one knee falls in at a time, or both knees fall to the same side. Women tend to be really flexible to the point of hypermobility. That's why yoga classes are often filled with women. We're good at it, so we're attracted to it. But we can be too flexible, particularly around the low back, and that can set us up for some low back instability issues. So practicing with more of a core connection and awareness can be really helpful to avoid some of those problems. Bring your legs back through to center. And then as you're ready, just take a roll over to your side. And then press yourself up into all fours, please. Wrists are right underneath the shoulders with the fingers spread wide. If this didn't feel like a good fit, you could put your hands in fists instead, or come down to your forearms. Every time you get into a different position, it's different to engage your core muscles. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. Here in this position, you want to find that there's lots of length through the spine. The crown of the head is reaching forward, tailbone reaching back behind you. It can be a little bit easier sometimes to fire up the abdominals here, so I'd like you to take an inhale in. And then take that long exhale. Low belly pulling back a little bit, pelvic floor gathering up. You could imagine like you're squeezing your legs closer together without moving them. Inhale, maybe let it go, but if you can, try to hold. And then strong exhale again, blow all the breath out. One more time. Start to let your spine move a little bit, any way that feels good. It can be kind of free form, or like cat-cows or side cats. So the easiest way to fire up those core muscles is to keep kicking into that long, almost sharp exhale. And then if it's available, encouraging the low belly to pull back in the pelvic floor to draw up. Let's find a bit more stability. So looking down to the ground, probably just an inch or two in front of the hands. Take an inhale. Take a big exhale, fire up the abdominals and the pelvic floor. Let one leg stretch back behind you. Opposite arm stretches forward. Inhale. Exhale to lower. Inhale. Exhale the other leg and its opposite arm stretch out. Inhale. Exhale to release. So still trying to find these core connections and the stability through the torso. Inhale. Exhale, extend. Inhale, wake up that core. Exhale to lower. Last one, inhale. Exhale, stretch out. Inhale to hold. Exhale to lower. Start to walk back into kind of like a hero pose where your toes are tucked under. And then if you can, see if you can bring yourself up into a little squat. So here, to fire up that like inner leg line, feeling like your heels are coming together will help you there. There's definitely some balance here, so you might want to find a stationary point to stabilize. You might want to feel the legs squeezing together a little bit more. Low belly's pulling back, pelvic floor's drawing up. You can stay low, or you could maybe bring your hands to prayer position. So we also create this extra stability that helps us with our balance when we're awake in the deep core, right? So low belly, pelvic floor, plus that strong, almost sharp exhale. And then that extra of the legs kind of squeezing into the center line, the heels coming in too, and even the hands into prayer. It's subtle, but they help. Take another inhale and exhale. Come into downward dog if that feels like a good fit. So walk the hands forward. Fingers are really flared out. Lifting up the legs, pressing back, let your head hang down. You can bend the knees. This can be nice and loose if you like. You could walk it out a little bit. Just gauge in your hands that there's a feeling of the weight shifting inwards, kind of like we were doing with the feet. So the thumbs and the index fingers are pushing down, so all the weight doesn't just go to the outsides and into the heels of the hands. Take another breath in, please. Exhale out. And then just start to walk your feet up towards your hands. Big toes can be together, heels slightly apart. Slide the hands to the shins. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold back down again. And then just roll yourself up to standing, coming up one vertebra at a time. Your head can be the last thing to come up. Standing tall. Notice how you feel. Step up to the top of the mat. Big toes together, heels apart slightly. That same feeling of squeezing in towards the center line. Pelvic floor drawing up a little bit, low belly drawing back, hands coming into prayer so we can energize through the midline to wake up through the core. We'll do a half sun salutation or two. Take an inhale. Exhale, drop the hands. Inhale, float the arms up. Exhale, dive down. Drop the hands to the shins. Inhale, up halfway. Exhale to fold. Come right back up. Bend the knees, drop the hips, lift the chest, look forward, and come up. Sweep the arms. Hands to prayer. And again, drop the hands. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Inhale all the way up. Exhale down. Last one for now. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale to come up. Exhale, hands to prayer. Pause for a breath. Open your eyes, drop your hands. Go ahead and grab that block or that pillow. So just starting to learn how we can integrate those core connections and that breath while we move so we can link it up, right? It's easy to find those connections when we're static, but it's more difficult to find them when we're moving around. We'll use the block again for a pose called fierce pose, thunderbolt pose. The block goes in between the knees maybe, or the thighs, whatever's more comfortable. And here, you need to make sure that the feet and the knees and the hips are all going forward in the same direction, and you're not knock-kneed again. So you get that little bit of a squeeze in towards the center line. You'll take an inhale. Exhale, draw back at the low belly, pull up at the pelvic floor, push your hips back, and then just let your arms float forward. So it's like you're pushing back into a bit of a squat. You can look down and just double check that you can see the toes. If you can't, you probably need to push your bum back a little bit more. So you're holding the pose, but not your breath. You're giving that block a little bit of a squeeze, and you're still trying to encourage that stronger, sharper exhale. You build a little bit of heat here. Take another inhale. Exhale. And then inhale to come back up. So taking the block out, we'll find the same thing with the legs side by side. So we don't have the feedback of the block, but we can still squeeze the legs in towards the center line because you won't always have the block depending on what you're doing. Inhale. Exhale. Low belly back, pelvic floor up. Push back into that squat. Squeeze the legs together. Because we've got the feet close together like this, we won't go knock-kneed, right? Because the legs are squeezing into the midline. This is important. Inhale. Strong, sharp exhales. One more inhale. And exhale. Come back up again. So this is where it gets a bit trickier. When the legs aren't side by side and you don't have a block. This is where, especially for women, you're really tempted to go knock-kneed, and you need to try to keep everything pointed forward, the toes and the knees going in the same direction. Inhale. Exhale. Push back. Arms float forward. So there's the feeling that there's the block there, but you're not physically rolling the knees in. But you're still trying to squeeze in towards the center line. You need the ability to do this in poses where the feet are a little bit wider, but the knees don't actually have to move. Just one more breath. Inhale. Exhale. Come back up. Feet a little bit closer together. Start to wake up the core a little bit more, coming down. Take an inhale. Exhale, drop the hands. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, up halfway. Exhale, fold. Now you're setting yourself for a high plank position. The hands are spread really wide. You'll bend your knees enough to get your hands to the floor. And then stepping back into high plank, it's like the top of a push-up. So you're in a long line from the heels to the head. The head isn't sagging down. You're just looking maybe an inch or two in front of the hands. You could drop your knees right away, and that will take some weight out. That will make this pose a little bit more manageable. So I want you to feel that the low belly's pulling back, the pelvic floor is drawing up, the legs are squeezing together. Using that strong, sharp exhale, so you're using everything you can to keep that deep core, abdominal and pelvic floor muscles engaged. One more breath. Long exhale. And just push back into child's pose. Take those knees a little bit wider apart. Untuck the toes. Forehead comes down to the mat or the hands. Take a couple breaths here. As you're ready, we'll try another squat. This one will be a wider leg. So you can start to come up onto your toes, and you'll let the feet go further apart. And the big toes turn out, all the toes turn out, and the knees and the toes all go in the same direction, so everything's opening out to the sides. Most students, you might find the heels have to stay up. If you can let the heels drop down, go for it. Again, with that balance, the legs, they're wide, right? But we're still trying to find everything squeezing in towards the center line. And then the hands, maybe they come into prayer position. If you need to have the hands down, then please do. So we don't have as much feedback, but we still want to try to squeeze in towards the center line. We still want to try to fire up the abdominals and the pelvic floor, but that's even more difficult with the pelvic floor because it's so open right now, right? So it's more difficult to engage pelvic floor when the legs are wide. That's totally normal. Just good to experiment. Take another inhale. Exhale. Lift yourself into a forward fold. Turn your toes forward again. Slide the hands to the shins. Inhale, up halfway. Exhale, fold down. And then roll yourself up to standing. Come up to the top. Turn the palms forward, just pausing in mountain pose. Close your eyes, notice how you feel. Open your eyes. So we get a little bit of help with our balance, like I had mentioned, when we connect into the core. There's a couple ways we can use some tricks to give you a bit more stability here. You'll start to shift your weight onto one foot. It doesn't matter what foot it is. Let that foot relax. Firm up the leg a little bit. Take a big exhale. Engage your abdominals and pelvic floor. Find a stationary point. Maybe the hands just come to the hips. Let the knee just open out to the side, and the toes can stay on the floor and the heel can push against the ankle. Now I want you to feel like the legs are squeezing in towards the center line. Remember, this is how we can wake up through the deep core. You could keep the toes on the ground, or you could let the foot come up a little bit below the knee, or guide the foot a little bit above the knee. Everything squeezes in towards the midline. Even the hands come to prayer. Find your stationary point. Breathe. One more full round of breath. Let the hands go. Let the leg go. Switch legs. So relax that foot. Firm up the leg a little bit. Find your stationary point. Take your big exhale. Wake up your core. Let the knee open out to the side. Foot can stay low, or maybe bring it up. Squeeze into the center line with the legs and the hands. Keep drawing back at the low belly. Keep drawing up at your pelvic floor. Find your breath. One more. Drop your hands, drop the leg, step up to the top of the mat. So each position, it's different to engage your core, pelvic floor and abdominals, and it can be trickier as we're standing and as we're moving, right? So it's normal that you'll find these different ranges will shift from pose to pose, your ability to connect or not. One sun salutation to come down. Everything squeezes into the midline, hands to prayer. Take an inhale. Take an exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold down. So stepping back into high plank, the top of the push-up. Firm up the legs, the core. Take an inhale. Maybe lower the knees down first, and then exhale, elbows snug to the sides. Stretch your legs back behind you. Point your elbows to your heels. Lift the torso maybe just slightly for a cobra, or you might slide your hands back and come up a little bit higher for upward dog. So in back bending poses, you want to make sure there's a good abdominal and pelvic floor connection to give your low back more support. Push back, walk the hands back, tuck your toes under. Push up and back to downward dog. Stay for one more round of breath. And then lower the knees down, please. Let one leg stretch out in front, a little to the side. The other knee bends in. You might walk your hips back a little bit. If there's a lot of space between the knee and the floor, you might put something there just to block up that space. With the extended leg, just try to roll the thigh in so that the knees point to the sky and the toes are a little active, so pull your toes towards you. You'll just take a really gentle twist, so the opposite arm to that extended leg just comes across. Take an inhale, sit a little bit taller. And on the exhale, take a little bit more of a turn from your mid-back. Maybe looking over that back shoulder if that's safe for your neck. Still trying to find those subtle core connections. Low belly pulling back, pelvic floor drawing up. It's trickier in a seated position too. You might find you're resisting a little bit in engaging the pelvic floor. Take an inhale, and then exhale to release. Take the hand behind you. Push your hand and your heel into the floor. Connect into the abdominals and pelvic floor. Push down to lift up. Engage your backside a little bit. Top arm stretches up, maybe over. You can look down to the ground or to your body. Bit of a back bend. So I want you to find those strong abdominal pelvic floor connections to give you more support. Take an inhale and an exhale, and then lower. So in back bending type poses, your low back is a little bit vulnerable. So you do need to make sure you've got a little bit more core awareness. Again, with the leg, the thighs kind of rolled in, the toes are a little bit active, you're sitting tall. You'll take the opposite arm to the extended leg. It's not a lot of a range of motion. You'll sit a little taller. Drop your shoulders down, looking over that back shoulder. And breathe. Relax where you can. Let that go. And then coming into this back bend. So the hand just comes down to the ground. Hand, heel into the floor, connect into the core, your backside. Lift your hips up. Top arm stretches up and over. Be gentle with your neck. One more. Bring yourself down. We'll come onto your backs and I'll have you grab your block or your pillow, please. All good?
Yep.
Okay. So reach for your block or your pillow. There'll be nothing behind your head. You'll take a big exhale, push your feet quite firmly into the floor, and then lift your hips up and you can pop your support just right underneath your pelvis. So it doesn't support your low back at all. It's just at the pelvis, so your low back is free. You can pick the range that makes sense for you. I'm at the lowest level on this block right now, but I could flip it and angle it so it was a little bit higher. It's not so much about the big deep stretch, it's more just to elevate your hips a little bit. So this is a supported bridge. The bridge we did before is more of an exercise. This is to just be able to relax. Your glutes, your backside doesn't need to be engaged at all. And neither do your abdominals or pelvic floor. It's really important to be able to engage those muscles and wake them up, but it's just as important to be able to relax them. So the focus isn't so much those strong internal contractions at this point. You can still focus on that longer exhale. The reason I've got you up into this bridge position is because for a lot of women, there's the potential for a prolapse. And if you have a prolapse, what is really beneficial for you is to just raise the hips a little bit like this so you're not fighting gravity so much. So my hips are just a little bit higher than my heart. And it can just feel like a comfortable place to rest. Whether or not you have a prolapse doesn't really matter. This can just be a lovely, gentle inversion to work with. Let the arms just come down beside you. You can close your eyes. Settling into the breath. One thing to remember with core is that the amount you're connecting into your deep core is relative to how much work and effort and load you're doing. So when we're doing exercises, when we're balancing, when we're moving our bodies quickly, when we're lifting a lot of weight or there's a heavy load, we need more of a deep core connection. But when the posture, for example, this one, is a little bit quieter, when we're resting, when we're relaxing in a gentle, restorative type yoga practice, you don't need so much of that core connection. It's like if you were moving and you were lifting something really light, you wouldn't have to engage that much into your core. But if that box was really heavy, then you would absolutely have to engage way more, right? You need to wake up that deep core before you made that move. So that's relative to your yoga practice too, so just keep that in mind. Just let the breath be smooth and easy. So if you're quite comfortable in this supported bridge, feel free to stay here longer. For those of you that are feeling like this pose is kind of done for you, you would very firmly push your feet into the floor. You take an exhale to help you wake up through your deep core, because we need a little bit of support to lift up into that bridge, and take the support out and lower the hips back down again. For your Savasana, you could let the legs stretch out, which is fairly traditional, although some of you might find it a little bit more comfortable for your low back to have your knees bent and your feet flat. Now here is where you don't need any core connection, just let your body relax. You don't have to focus on the breath either, just let your body soak it all up. We'll be here for a few minutes today. If you'd like to rest a little longer, just ignore me. Stay down as long as you need to. If you're okay to move again, you'll just bring some awareness back to your body, please. And you'll let your inhale get a little bit deeper. You can start to add some movement, like wiggling your fingers and your toes. Maybe blink. Nod the head from side to side. You can stretch and yawn. And then bend your knees. Roll to your right side. And push yourself up to your seat. Close your eyes, bow your head down, hands to prayer. Notice how you feel. Thank yourself for practicing today and thank your body for all its hard work. Open your eyes. Lift your head. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.